Hi guys, we're back from the ad break. We continue. You are refreshed, you are ready to listen and to understand and revise exactly what you learned before. So let's continue. We did the difference between endocrine and exocrine. We looked at the glands and where they are positioned and their secretions and the type. The secretions, I mean the type of hormones that they secrete. And now we are going to look at this part, homeostasis. What is really homeostasis? I believe this word now is resonating in your brains. You're trying to remember what homeostasis means. Remember, the hormones are secreted, and hormones are those secretions that are secreted by the glands. And now when we're talking about homeostasis, we are looking at human beings, don't forget. Now, homeostasis is nothing else but the process whereby the body gets the internal environment balanced. So we are going to look at different factors that the body balances and how it balances its internal environment independently so. So let's continue now. The keywords under homeostasis, it's homeostasis on its own. Remember, I explained what homeostasis is. I said is the process whereby the body maintains the internal environment constant. Then we're going to look at the negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism happens for homeostasis to take place. And we're going to look at thermoregulation. Thermoregulation is the regulation of the temperature, how the body regulates the temperature. Osmoregulation, we're talking about the body regulating the water level. And then we are going to look at vasodilation and vasoconstriction. Here, you should know the difference here, what is to constrict and what is to dilate. For you to understand these words correctly, always, if possible, break them into two and then you'll get the understanding. But here, the content and the understanding and the functioning, you'll see when we continue. Now, we look into negative feedback mechanism. I explained homeostasis, the internal environment that is kept balanced. Now we're looking at the negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism is an interaction. What? Interaction between two hormones in which one hormone stimulates increase and another hormone which then inhibits. So we're talking about a hormone that will be increased and the hormone that will be inhibited. That's when now we're looking at the negative feedback mechanism. So we say negative feedback mechanism is an interaction between two hormones. What is happening between the two hormones? One hormone stimulates the increase and the other one will be inhibited. So the first hormone will be during this process whereby we see one hormone being stimulated to increase and one be decreased or inhibited to be secreted. It's when now we're looking at the negative feedback mechanism. You can see now it's an interaction between the two hormones. The other one makes the secretion to be high and then the secretion is going down. So that's how I said negative feedback mechanism. It's the process that will take us where we were talking about the homeostasis as a process whereby the body maintains internal balance. So, we're looking at the following sequence of events for what to take place for negative feedback mechanism to take place. These are the 7 steps, guys, that you should bear in mind. That will make you remember when you are asked any question based on the negative feedback mechanism in whether they're asking you a question on thermoregulation, osmoregulation, or sugar regulation, or we can say glucose regulation. These 7 steps that we're going to go through, they will help you to remember and to be able to answer the questions that are based on negative feedback mechanism. What are these steps? The first thing that will happen is the imbalance that will be detected. But this imbalance should be detected by the receptor. So, once the receptor detects an imbalance, something must happen. Let's see what is going to happen. Then the control center will be stimulated. What is going to happen after the control center has been stimulated? Something must happen again. This control center that is stimulated need to respond. Once the stimulation takes place, there must be a response. So, the control center in this case will respond. So, how is it going to respond? We continue with 4th step. Then the message is now sent to the target. Remember, we did talk to the target. We said the hormones must have a target and they are secreted, where the secretion go exactly to the target. So, step number 4, a message will be sent to the target or the organ, which are the effectors. What are we talking about when we are talking about the effectors? The effectors are nothing else but the targets in this case. Targets or organs, they are the effectors. We started by saying the receptors will detect the imbalance. Remember, we're talking about the internal environment. So imbalance is detected by the receptors. And in the control center, the stimulation that is taking place, this stimulation now in the control center will do what? Will respond. Then when it is responding, the response is sending a message to the target, which are the effectors in this case. Then the 5th step, message is sent to the effector at this point. What will happen now? The effector also must respond. If you are given a message, there's no way that you cannot respond. The effector now respond. How will this effector respond? Let's move to the next step. Then it opposes or give a reverse that should give the reverse to the imbalance. Then after the effector responds, it gives what? It opposes the imbalance that was detected. Then if it opposes that, it reverses the imbalance. Then once it reverses the imbalance that was detected at step number 1, then what will happen? The balance in the internal environment will be restored, which means now whatever was detected as being imbalanced inside our body, then at that time, after the reverse has been done, then the body goes back to its balance situation, or it restores the balance inside the body, which means homeostasis now took place. All all these 7 steps are steps that talks to homeostasis, maintaining the balance inside our system, internal environment. Then let's look at how homeostasis is taking place. We have step 1 here. We're talking homeostasis. We need balance. The receptor, remember we said the receptor will detect the imbalance. And then the control center will do what? Will respond and send the message to the effector. That is number 4. And what is going to happen? The effector will reverse the imbalance, and then the balance will be restored. That is a simple sketch or just a circle that will make you understand homeostasis easier with the steps that we dealt with and with this diagram that makes you to remember, or that will make you to have the better understanding of how homeostasis is taking place. Then we're looking at maintenance of water level, homeostasis, maintaining the internal, the balance of the internal environment. But now we are looking at water level. Then here, remember we did talk to osmoregulation in the beginning. Regulation. So we're looking at how the water inside our bodies is maintained at a balance, at a level where we refer to it as a balanced level. See how it works. Remember the 7 steps. This is the negative feedback mechanism of osmoregulation. 7 steps, remember? The pituitary glands here. In this case, we're looking at the feedback mechanism in the control of water balance, osmoregulation. Here, it's where now we see normal water level. So, let's look at this one. The water level now decreases. A detection has taken place. There's a low water level. The pituitary gland here will secrete more because we've got less water level in our system. Then the pituitary gland will act. How? It will produce more ADH. Then what will happen? Permeability of collecting ducts and the distal convoluted tubules will increase so that more water is reabsorbed because water decreased. So we need more water. So more water will be reabsorbed into the blood. Then what will happen? Immediately when more water is reabsorbed into the blood, then water will go back to normal. So in a case water level increases, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? What do you think? Remember the pituitary gland. Remember the hormones that are secreted in the pituitary gland. Again, the pituitary gland will act. Then the pituitary gland stops secreting ADH. Why it stops? Because we've got too much water in our system. Then the permeability of collecting ducts and the distal convoluted tubules will decrease. So that what should happen? Less water shouldn't be reabsorbed into the blood. So more water is lost. If water is not reabsorbed So more water will be lost. Once more water is lost here, then the level of water goes back to normal. Then we're looking at the salt, how the body maintains the salt. Then again, we're looking at what happens when the salt in the blood decreases. Then we see adrenal glands here secrete more aldosterone. Why more aldosterone? So that reabsorption of sodium ions increases. Then salt level in the blood increases, and it will take us back to normal level of salt because it decreased here. So salt level in the blood will now increase. Then it takes us to a normal level of salt in the system. In the case salt level increases, what is going to happen? The opposite. Adrenal gland again will stop the secretion of aldosterone, meaning less aldosterone will be secreted. So what will happen? Reabsorption of sodium ions into the blood will decrease. When it decreases, the level of salt now in the blood decreases. Then it takes the level of salt back to normal. Carbon dioxide concentration in our system. How do we maintain it balanced? Feedback mechanism, negative feedback mechanism again on this. We're looking at one, increase in carbon dioxide. And the level decrease the pH and decrease in oxygen. So what will happen? The receptors will detect. Then low pH detected by chemoreceptors. Remember the levels. Then the control center, the impulse will send to the impulses will be sent to medulla oblongata. Learners, it's key to tell the real part, the specific part of the brain. Don't just say brain, but what in the brain? The medulla oblongata. Then what will happen here? The respiratory muscles, the diaphragm, and intercostal muscle increase the rate and depth of the breathing. Once breathing increases, then the heart muscles will also increase the heart rate. Then the heart rate increased here, more carbon dioxide will be removed from the body. Then when more carbon dioxide is removed, we see level of carbon dioxide here dropping. The pH of the blood returns to normal. This is nothing else but the negative feedback mechanism of carbon dioxide concentrations. Now, guys, I know you understood the control of carbon dioxide concentration in our system. Now we move into glucose level in our system. Then, remember we are revising. We're looking at this point where glucose level is high in our system. The pancreas will be involved when the glucose is high. So what will the pancreas do? The pancreas will secrete this hormone, insulin. Why insulin? So that insulin should convert. Remember first, before we move forward, the glucose level is high in our blood system. Pancreas involved secrete insulin so that the insulin should convert glucose into glycogen so that this glycogen can be stored in the liver. And then once the glucose has been converted into glycogen and then stored in the liver, it will come back to normal. Now, in a case we are in a situation where blood glucose level drops, what is going to happen? Again, the pancreas is involved. In this case, the pancreas will secrete glucagon. For what purpose? So that glucagon can convert glycogen that was stored into glucose. And the glucose now will be absorbed into our blood, and it will now take the blood glucose blood level to normal. Now we're looking at thyroxine level, how homeostasis, keeping it balanced. How do we keep it balanced? The red here, now we see thyroxine level being low in our blood system. So what is going to happen if that blood glucose is low or the level has dropped? And then B here, we're looking at thyroxine level being high. So what is going to happen if this happens? Here now, we're looking at the normal level. So in this case, thyroxine is not normal. Then the pituitary gland will secrete more. It's key to say more thyroxine stimulating hormone. So where does it go? It goes to the thyroid gland. Then more thyroxine will be secreted. Then thyroxine level will come back to normal because it was low. Then when thyroxine level is too high, what will happen? Again, we start with our pituitary gland that will release less because now thyroxine is high. It will release or secrete less thyroxine stimulating hormone. For what? For the thyroid gland to release or secrete less thyroxine. So when less thyroxine is secreted now, we will experience the level of thyroxine that is dropping or decreases. That will take back to normal. That will make the level of thyroxine in our system normal. And then the cycle continues like that, because when we started here, we said it is high. Then this is the process. Then we continue to the next one, body temperature, how homeostasis takes place, or how body temperature is maintained at its normal level. And we're looking at the situation whether it's cold and when it is hot. What is happening when it is cold? When it is cold now, the capillaries the vasoconstriction will take place, which means the capillaries will constrict. These capillaries now, they are near the skin surface, and they will conserve the heat once the constriction takes place. And in a case that we are in a hot environment, heat will be lost. Then how is this heat lost? The capillaries dilate, they become bigger, they open up. So we are talking vasodilation. So this happens near the skin surface to lose heat because it is too hot. The body must maintain its normal temperature. So we're looking at the bottom here. We've got the structure of the skin. We're looking at the sweat glands here, where they're coming from. We've got the sweat glands here. The sweat glands will now stop secretion because now here it is cold. Then here, when it is hot, what will happen? We've got the sweat glands here. Then the sweat glands begin to secrete sweat. And this sweat will cause heat loss by evaporation. You can see here, we see the heat that is going out here when it gets to the environment or to the atmosphere, then evaporation takes place. Guys, we covered the 7 aspects where we saw homeostasis taking place. I believe you understand how homeostasis is taking place. Now, let's take a little bit of a break. At break, I'll come back and we continue with our homeostasis. Thank you.